Hi everyone, this is Shauna Prabhu. What's the most creative excuse a client has given you for eating cheat food? It's always too much stress, work, in-laws, kids. There are multiple reasons. I think they're endless. But I think when it comes to creative excuse, it's always the friend, right? It's the partner, it's never themselves. So can't think of the exact thing, but yeah, they use all sort of props and supporting cast to have their cheat meal. Many people train hard but don't see results. How much of that comes down to nutrition versus training? Okay, you know what? I always tell everyone that nutrition and training are partners, right? Like equal partners. And it's not like a love-hate relationship, but somewhere where both of them have equal feelings for each other. So if you're someone who's training really, really hard but has a very mediocre diet, you're not going to support it because every training session is stressful for the body and you have these tiny tears and repairs. So nutrition can really help with recovery. And on the other hand, you may have like this Olympic type diet, maybe AI has helped you create one and things, but if your training is very average or you don't spend enough time training and taking care of your body, then that diet will just remain that, right? So both go hand in hand. What's the funniest food request you've heard from a professional athlete? I don't know if it's funny, but it's like, can I have red wine? Can I have alcohol? Will one beer really do damage? And it's been more around that than food. But you know, right now with elite athletes and where they stay, there's always access to Swiggies and you know, the Blinkits and Zomatos and all of that. So getting food in sometimes can be much easier, but having alcohol is not as easy. No one likes to just drink by themselves. So there's always that accountability that, you know, comes into play. What's one fitness trend you wish never became popular? I think it's just about the whole, you know, eating low carbs, making carbs the enemy, and it really doesn't help with your fitness because that is your primary fuel. You may have heard it, you know, over multiple different podcasts. I'm not the first one saying that, but this is just a very basic thing that you need to know when to eat it. So maybe if it comes up in the next questions, or even if it doesn't, something about matching your nutrition to training load is very important, and that's where carbs come into the picture, right? Just knowing how to periodize, just in simple language, meaning when to up it, when to lower it, when to maintain it. I think that's more important. What blood markers or health parameters do you think active adults should monitor regularly? So, couple of things. If you're into sport or, you know, recreationally active, then iron, ferritin for sure, because a lot of Indians, especially female athletes, are deficient in iron or don't have as much. B12 and D are good to test for because we're mostly vegetarian as a, you know, population. But vitamin D, now every single person has a low level, right? But one thing I want to let everyone know here is vitamin D is a hormone, right? And its receptors are on almost every cell of your body. So having enough vitamin D is very crucial. So testing just helps you understand, okay, you might be low, but how low and how much supplementation you might need, because it's very difficult to get it naturally through food. Apart from this, really testing for your thyroid function, insulin sensitivity, cholesterol, these would be, I think, must-haves in your blood testing profile. And the rest of it, I would say even inflammatory markers. We're eating out so much, really not paying as much attention to the diet. Then HSCRP, CRP, these are some markers that would be good to test for. How different is the nutrition plan of an IPL athlete compared to someone who goes to the gym 4 to 5 times a week? Right, so, you know, with a gym goer or a recreational athlete, there is some predictability in terms of, you know, you're going at a certain time and it doesn't change too much. With an IPL athlete, there are lots of variables, okay, with respect to, it could be the location, the weather, the training load that the athlete has had just the match before or getting into the next match. So the fundamentals for both of them are the same. okay? Your carbs, proteins, fats, vitamins, minerals, all of that doesn't really change. But these variables is what makes it different, and you need a little more precision for it there. For instance, you have an athlete who's really had unusually long batting session, less than a day to recover before the next match. You throw travel into the picture, you throw humidity into the picture because the next location is such, then you really need to, take care of recovery nutrition as soon as he walks away from the previous match. And with a gym goer, it's not that we need such precision, but getting your meals sorted out, being consistent with them, making sure that you hit all your macros, all of that is good enough to start with. So that's the main difference. Can nutrition actually reduce the risk of injuries and speed up recovery? If yes, how? So it's absolutely yes, nutrition can do both of them. But again, think of this, that good nutrition is not going to make you injury proof. Right? So think of good, like a strong car, anything that comes to your mind. The ones that come to mind are like Toyota, Volvo. They're like car brands that build strong cars, right? But they're not accident proof. Right? You have everything with you so that the car is solid. It doesn't succumb to accidents as much, but it's so your body is similar, right? Nutrition is like one of those things that you can use to make injuries less, reduce the risk of injuries. But on the other hand, having certain nutrients in your diet can really help with recovery. Okay, it could range from starting from protein, because that's the main function, one of the main functions of protein. There's omega-3 that can bring down the inflammation. There's carbohydrates that can support your muscles, to perform at a certain level. There is magnesium, which is good for muscle health. And there's like, depending on the type of injury, then you have your vitamin D, calcium and collagen, which all play a part, and even creatine for that matter. So that's where nutrition really comes into the play. They're supporting. Nutrition complements your training and recovery and all of that. How do you fuel athletes before, during and after competition, and what can everyday fitness enthusiasts learn from that? Alright, so here it really depends on what kind of competition we are talking about. If you're going for a run, usually what most people do is they just focus on the meal before the run or the meal, say, in the morning, right? And in the morning, no one really has the appetite to eat the way they do otherwise. So instead of focusing on just that specific meal or day, what I would encourage is for you to do it, through the week. If you're training for something particular, don't just focus on what you're going to do 1 week before or the day before. You need to be consistent with your eating habits, your training, because this is what your body really recognizes. So if it's during, a lot of times we wait until we feel fatigued. Right, so I see this a lot with cyclists as well. You have more chances to fuel while you're cycling more than running. But if you wait till you're fatigued, then you're not going to recover as fast. Or same with tennis athletes. Right, you're in your third set, and right now you're feeling that fatigue, but you haven't done anything till then. And that's where recovering from that fatigue is going to be a lot harder, and it's going to be your most stressful set possibly. So you need to start doing it prior. So maybe, in your first set, take breaks. In your second set, whenever there's a changeover, fuel with something, hydrate. So that's where it counts. And after you finish your game or your match, a lot of times everyone's just very happy to have finished that. So recovery nutrition takes a back seat. Something that I always advise my athletes is to carry the shaker or keep your meal ready. Don't wait, because you have that window of 1 hour, which is that golden window where you need your nutrients coming in. So if you delay that, because say for example you've gone for a really long run and home is 1 hour away from where you finished, then your recovery window you miss that, and then recovery will happen, but at a much slower rate. Dalgona coffee, rice paper mochi, and so much more. Which is your favorite Instagram food trend? I must say I tried rice paper mochi and it really didn't work as well, though the reel turned out well when we actually tasted it. Very blah. I'm not a coffee person, so don't know much about Dalgona, but I did try these, momos that you use rice paper with and just stuff things, and that turned out to be pretty decent. So I really liked that one, and I'm more of an Asian food person, so yes. If someone has time to improve one thing in their diet for better performance, what should it be? I would at any time say planning is the most important part, because it's very simple. It comes down to this. If you're looking at what to wear for work, right, and you haven't really picked out your set of clothes, maybe not applicable to boys here, but to more females, if you haven't picked up your set of clothes, if you're a guy, I'm sure you're smiling, because you know your sister, mom, friend, girlfriend doing this, they're going to take forever and there's never anything to wear. Right? But if you've planned the day before, you'll pick up something that looks decent. Otherwise, you're going to pick up anything that just comes your way. And the same with food. If you plan your food, it's easier to make those good choices rather than you're hungry and then you will most likely order rubbish. Right? So planning is very important. And the ones who do more average or ordinary meals more often, but which is within a good framework of nutrition, do much better than one or two perfect meals that they hit through the week. Is preventive healthcare something we should start thinking about in our 20s, even if we feel perfectly healthy? I would say yes. Put your money on it and start working towards it, because I'm going to give you an analogy like building a house, right? You need the foundation to be really strong. And that's what you do in your 20s and 30s. And as you get into the next decades of your life, there will obviously be cracks in the house, there would be leakages, things that you have to keep redoing, right? But those things are managed much more easier. But if you don't get the foundation right, then just imagine what it would be like then in your 40s and 50s. So your health is your investment, your biggest investment, right? And it makes sense to put the right sort of investment or money into it, just to make sure that you're really enjoying your later life. Do supplements like magnesium, vitamin D help with recovery in athletes? Again, I'd like to answer this question like, think of the supporting cast in a movie. Okay, think of your favorite movie. Now, I'm not a movie person, but the only one that comes to my mind with a lot of supporting cast was like long back, Kabhi Kushi Kabhi Gum. Right? There were lots. Everyone had an important role to play, but there were some main characters there. And now, vitamin D, magnesium, omega-3, they all work, or they complement or supplement the diet, just as the word supplement says, when you have a very sound basic structure, right? Now, if you're not sleeping well, no amount of magnesium you take can really help with that. You need to get some discipline in your sleep, but having magnesium can surely support that. If you have joint pains or you have inflammation, you need to stop eating out as much, because the oils that you get from it are really, really bad. But then supplementing your diet with an omega-3 can help bring down that inflammation, and there are a host of other benefits from having omega-3, right? If you're trying to build your testosterone, right, there may be lots of other supplements you may reach out to, but very basic things about eating good fats is very important, because that's the building block for hormones. If you're in perimenopause, right, and again, hormonal shifts are happening, having enough fiber, having enough good fats, all of these things, and protein is very important to make sure that your body composition remains good. So supplements have their place. Remember, they're the supporting cast, not the main character. What's the biggest nutrition mistake you see both professional and recreational athletes make? For me, it is not matching their nutrition to their training load. Okay, I'll give you a very simple example. There are a lot of athletes and recreational athletes who, on the day of their rest or recovery, end up eating the most calories, or they eat most junk food, because one, they have a lot of time on their hands on that day, right? And mind gets diverted to it. But on your recovery days, your body really needs the nutrition to help it recover. It also needs a little less. So you have to be precise about what nutrients you want on your recovery day. But from a calorie perspective, it requires lesser, right? But what we tend to do is overeat. Now, on a day where your practice is really hard, say you're training 2 times a day and maybe you have a full-time job as well. So the opportunities to eat are not many, right? But you have to really plan those meals properly so that you get the best out of your nutrition. And a lot of times then what happens is you go to training sessions underfueled. And this can happen both with, elite athletes, it can happen with recreational athletes, and that's why planning is very important in this whole framework of eating right. If 1 cup of chai has 8 grams of protein, can I have 6 cups every day to hit my protein goals? I would love that. But the thing is, think of what chai has in it, right? A lot of us don't have it sugarless. So if you add at least a teaspoon of sugar to your chai, then you're getting 6 teaspoons of sugar, or even more if you're someone who likes really sweet chai, which Indians do because they like their chai like dessert. So think of 6 desserts that you're having through the day. Well, you might meet your protein goal, but then you can also eat high protein desserts like rasgulla, right? And different things. And they're not going to work well with your body. So I think it answers the question for you. And I recently saw high protein coffee and I did a LinkedIn post on that. So yeah, there are lots of high protein alternates coming in, but no to chai. What's the funniest nutrition myth you've ever heard from an athlete? So it's more like this was from a sprinter, right? So if I eat more fish, will I get faster? Will I swim faster? Or, hey, sorry, this is not a sprinter. This is a swimmer that does sprint events. Right, so the question was more like, if I eat fish, ma'am, like salmon, one's rich in omega-3, will I swim as fast? Right, and I found that really funny. It possibly had some logic, but no, sorry swimmers, that doesn't happen. But eating fish on the other hand really has good benefits of omega-3, protein, calcium, so eat it for those reasons. So that's a wrap from my side, and keep watching, stay tuned on this channel for more such episodes, and hope you enjoyed today.